Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Katherine Kelly, and I want to bring to you more about Soul 101, kind of the basics of the soul. And today I'm going to talk about the way of the soul and how it affects everything that we do. And, I think a lot of people have this disconnect. They think that the soul is something only to be discussed in religious kind of situations, but we live and breathe through our soul every single moment of the day. Now, I'm going to show you through my soul health model what I mean with that, because of the fact that really everything, our soul is the hub of everything, every thought, every behavior, every action, every reaction. And I'm going to show you today how that's so in using what I created many, many years ago. It's about 19 years ago now, my soul health model. So I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint presentation. It's going to look a little formal, but I think it's going to help you really understand how the soul works and how we experience it every single day of our life. So bear with me while I share this real quick here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit slideshow. Come on, let's get this going. There we go. So it's from the very beginning. There we go. So, the way of the soul, understanding human behavior through understanding the soul. And this is really why I want to do this, because we cannot fully understand human behavior until we understand the soul. And so any one of you who is kind of challenged with trying to figure out why you're not healing the way you think you should, or why you can't get past something, if you are a practitioner or an educator or a coach or an administrator and you're trying to figure out how can I get people further in their healing, this is yet another way to help you understand that the soul is present in every single thing that we do. So I'm going to kind of go through this, the history of the soul. And I mentioned all of this in a previous video, but I'm going to go through just a few of those slides to help you understand this even more. So the soul is the non-material essence of a person, including their identity, personality, memories. So it's the essence of who we are. It's not anywhere in the body. It's not somewhere you can dissect and find. It is the immaterial aspect or essential part of us, the part of us that I think personally needs more attention. So it's the essence of a living being that is believed to survive through physical death. So it's the part of us that goes on no matter what. It's the essence of who we are, our core identity beyond what we've been conditioned to believe, think, or do. It is the central processing unit. I used these terms with a colleague, 6 months ago or so ago, and she was like, oh my gosh, okay, that helps me understand how I can put this into words for someone. So it's the central processing unit of everything we do, what we do, we think, we feel as a human being. So just like in a computer, we have the central processing unit that really, if that thing breaks down, then everything in the computer goes awry. If there's a glitch in it, everything goes awry. But the thing is with the soul, it's the same kind of concept that we don't understand. The soul's the central processing unit, but I'm going to help you understand how that plays out so you can put that all together and understand, again, your human condition versus your soul's condition. The other thing I try to emphasize is that the soul is an experience. It's not something you can fully define or measure because it's more of an experience. Once a person gets in tune with their soul, they know it's there, they know how to use it. But on the other hand, they don't know really fully how to define it. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as well. It is the unique part of us that influences our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. So it's unique to every single one of us on this planet. It is the energetic signature of who we are. Now, when I do intuitive readings, when I do more of a soul healing kind of session rather than a psychotherapy session, I talk about the fact that I tune into the energy of who a person is through their voice. And I call it the energetic signature of a person's soul. So it's that energetic part of them that is unique to only them that brings them basically brings it themselves into every thought behavior, but it's that essence, it's that energetic essence. It's also the energetic storage unit of all of your experiences. So for those of you who work with or believe in past lives, you understand that all of that information has carried forward with you. So you start this lifetime with that storage unit already somewhat full from your previous experiences. And those previous experiences influence how you relate to the world from that point forward. And again, that's more Soul 101 in future videos, but I want to help you understand how that plays out in everyday life. Again, it's kind of like the cloud storage. We're talking about the cloud and where everything is stored these days. And it's one of those things now where it's really our soul's energetic cloud storage is where the information from past, present, and somewhat future comes from. It is not something that can be measured. There were people way, way, way back, thousands of years ago, who tried to measure where this thing was. You cannot measure the soul. You cannot find the soul because it's the essence in every cell of our body. It's in every aspect of who we are. It's in every breath that we breathe. It is only knowable. So I think that is one other reason why a lot of people have disconnected from the soul because they can't find it. They don't know how to explain it. And I'm going to change that. But basically it's something they can't pin down necessarily. So I want to talk about the difference between the human condition versus the soul condition. And this is my soul health model. I created this about 18 and a half years ago after having been really influenced by the National Wellness Institute model for wellness. And it had 6 aspects of wellness that they believe affect everyday life. Now, I actually ended up expanding that into this model to add 4 additional aspects because as a therapist and someone who really digs into the soul work with people, I realized that there were 4 pieces to me that felt like they were missing. So this model, the soul health model, has the physical, the spiritual, the psychological, the interpersonal, the social, financial, recreational, sexual, environmental, and intellectual occupational health. Now, if you just take a look at this for just a moment, many of you are going to be able to go, whoa, okay, I didn't realize that those different aspects were part of me. But you're also going to think about the fact that, oh gosh, yeah, if this branch of health is wounded or imbalanced or broken from a deep kind of concern or trauma that you've had many years ago, you can just basically look at this tree and go, oh, yeah, wow, now I know why I don't feel well because you haven't been attending to all of the different aspects that to me are very necessary to heal and grow and evolve beyond those wounds so that you can feel what I call whole. I call this whole person health and whole soul health, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But if you look at this model, you will be able to very quickly and easily identify one or more of the branches that need a little bit of work in your life, which is exactly why I created this model to make it very user friendly and to make it very tangible for people to be able to go, okay, this is the part of me that needs some work. So many people come to me feeling just weary and bedraggled and worn out and wounded. And, you know, this is one of those images that really gets to the heart and soul of what a person feels. Because we've all had times in our life when we have felt this, when we feel so wilted and we feel like our branches are breaking and we feel like there's nothing green and nothing lively about us. And really, what people want is to feel that vibrance. They want to feel that radiance. They want to feel like they're coming back to life. And so, granted, as a psychologist, people come to me because they need help and they're wounded. Um, Personally, I wish everybody went to therapy and I wished everybody understood this whole idea of soul health because we would all be functioning better together and we would all be functioning in a way where we realized that the body, mind, and soul all needed attention in order for us to feel well. Now, again, I call that whole person wellness or whole soul wellness because I think the thing is we have to start incorporating that soul essence of us into healing practices and into understanding why we keep tripping over ourselves. We have to understand that in order to get further. So we have to think of soul health as something, okay, what is it that's imbalancing me? What is it that is misaligning me? What is it that I need to do to get realigned? And it's a very human intellectual process to go through each one of those branches and identify that. But what you're doing is you're tuning into basically what you need at that deepest level in order to feel whole, which is what whole person health is all about. So who doesn't want to get from this bedraggled looking tree to a more radiant kind of tree? And the truth about soul health is that it depends on who you are. It's that essence of who you are, your willingness and interest in healing yourself at that deeper level. It is multidimensional, as you saw with those 10 different branches. It also requires self-awareness. It requires you to take a step back and look at what it is that is misaligned or wounded or broken, and also be honest with yourself that you need some work in those areas. It's a very individualized program. This is why cookie cutter health does not work because modern medicine really doesn't individualize a process of healing for people. It's very much a cookie cutter approach. It's very much a protocol version. And so this is where you can become a steward of your own health by looking at these different branches and basically um, engaging in and going on a journey of your own health. But it is entirely possible. So I'm going to walk through these different branches just very briefly to help you understand from a soul level how some of these things may be affecting your life. So here's the soul health model again. And so whole health, you can't just look at one branch. You have to look at the interdynamic nature of how one branch affects the other. Because the thing is, you can't have one unhealthy branch and feel whole. And one unhealthy branch usually filters out and starts to make the other branches around that branch not so healthy. But it is an individualized program or model. And also, I look at the trunk as the sense of self or sense of soul. So that's the consciousness part of realizing, okay, yes, I've got some human condition branches I need to work on, but how am I willing to engage on that journey? Are you willing to dive into that? So you need a sturdy soul in order to function and maintain that tree. That self-awareness or that consciousness about that is everything. And I also talk about the age or sense of self as the ability to heal. So age of the soul is another thing that I'm going to be talking about in future videos to help you understand how the age of a person's soul has a direct impact on willingness and ability to work through life and cope through life, but it also has a big impact on how we interact with others. So that's going to be another Soul 101 topic coming up in the future. So I love quotes. Good for the body is the work of the body, good for the soul, the work of the soul, good for either, the work of the other. Henry David Thoreau had wonderful quotes about body, mind, and soul. And I think this is something that is so needed in how we go about healing. So, physical health. Now, we all think about physical health as basically lack of disease, not having any major illness, getting adequate sleep, getting good nutrition, all those kinds of things. When it comes from the soul perspective, you have to also think about what is the trauma? What is the difficulty that we have when we have health problems? There's something that hits us at the core of who we are when we've had a serious accident, when we've had some sort of health concern, when we aren't motivated to do something. Why is that? Is it really human behavior or is it something deeper? When we are struggling to balance our lives from a physical perspective, yeah, there's human behavior that needs to be part of this, but you have to look deeper. If you're having a hard time motivating, if you're having a hard time sleeping even, there's got to be something that is misaligned deeper within you that needs some attention. Now, we can, and I'm going to use sleep as an example. We can go through sleep studies. We can go through what's called sleep hygiene training. We can do all kinds of things from a physical perspective just for sleep. And yet, if something is stirring deep within, if something is misaligned at a soul level, you're going to have a hard time sleeping no matter what. You can look at any of these kinds of health concerns. There's a deeper side to physical health than physical health. Just uh, the physical aspects that are listed here are just part of the story. We have to look at what is beyond or beneath the surface in order to get further. And overall good physical health. Psychological health. To me, the psyche and the soul are so interrelated that there's no way at all to separate them. So we have to look at, okay, so we're dealing with depression, we're dealing with anxiety, we're dealing with PTSD, trauma, grief, all kinds of different mental health concerns. And for those of you who are already aware, I've already started publishing the books in my Soul of Psychology series. And what I'm doing is I'm taking individual psychological concerns, breaking them down, talking about the modern treatment for the body and the mind. But I'm also helping people understand through this book series really the idea of the soul side, excuse me, tickle in my throat, the soul side of those kinds of mental health concerns. Excuse me, this is real-time recording right here. But it's that idea that depression and anxiety and trauma and grief and all kinds of other mental health concerns have a soul side to them. And so you can do many things to heal from a psychological perspective. And I'm a psychologist, so I endorse that. But I also know that there's something deeper. There is something deeper going on in many people who need deeper kinds of care in order to really treat the soul aspect, to experience that overall healing. And, I'm going to give you an example of this. I have a client who I've worked with for about 8 or 9 years now. She had a very difficult upbringing, very abusive, sexually abusive, physically abusive, emotionally abusive. Family was part of a cult. So there was a lot of brainwashing, a lot of dysfunctional kind of programming that was in this person. She came to me and she had already done some therapy years ago, but she was just basically nervous all the time. Her energy was so intensely nervous that she had to pace in my office. And it wasn't until we really helped her understand the idea of soul healing that she could understand why she needed to go deeper. She had to understand the concept of the soul, the language of the soul. And she is such a different individual now because of the fact that she's done more of the psychological healing, but she's done a lot of the soul healing. And she told me just a couple months ago that she has never felt as good as she does today. And she would have never been able to do that had she not understood the soul aspects that are part of this. So I am absolutely 100% an encourager of going to therapy. And I also know that it's not always enough. So, from a psychological perspective, sometimes we have deeper things we need to explore. How has that anxiety misaligned your energetic system? If it's depression, how is your soul feeling suppressed? If it's trauma, how has that particular trauma hit you at a core level to a point where traditional methods of treatment aren't helping enough? So there is a deeper side to every one of these branches, and I'm going to lay that out more and more as we talk about this Soul 101 series, as well as some of the other video series that I do. So psychological health, here's what we think of from a human perspective, but we have soul perspectives to go to as well. The social branches. So, when we think about the people who are parts of our social network. We think of the warm bodies in our life. No, there's the family, the friends, the pets, the neighbors, the coworkers, clergy, neighbors, whoever it might be. We think about those people. And yet we don't always know to think about the dynamics that we have with them. So, what about some of our past life experiences with these individuals that have come into this lifetime as well? And we are here to heal them. We're not going to heal them unless we know what those dynamics are. If you have a particularly difficult kind of relationship with something, I can bet you that there is a past life with them that is supposed to be healed in this life or understood so you could heal in a past life. We also have certain kinds of connections and relationships with people because something has to bring us together in order for us to do the deeper healing. And there's a whole other video I'll do about that. I call it my magnet metaphor, where I think souls are drawn together. The universe had to construct something to draw souls together so that we could interact with the people we were supposed to interact with in a way that it stirs us in a way to heal. We are here to basically heal and evolve, but we're not going to do that if we carry wounds from the past or we've been wounded in this lifetime in a way that's inhibiting our full growth. So from the social branch, there's all kinds of different levels at a soul level, or layers of it at a soul level that need to be explored in order to do that true healing. Now, holidays stir up all kinds of stuff. Health problems stir up stuff. Relationship milestones, marriages, divorces, all of those births, those stir up stuff. And it's because those social dynamics and connections from a soul level are there for us to heal and grow and evolve beyond. So there's a whole other layer again to this human condition that lends itself to further understanding. So I added the intellectual branch. Most wellness models do not have this. Oops, let me go back here. I'm sorry. Don't have this branch. And it's basically, I wanted to help people understand the dynamics, help people understand what it is that causes our connections to be so challenging at times. And I say left and right that basically we would not be evolving unless we had the other humans on this planet to have difficulties with, to force us to go within, force us to evaluate what's going on and force us to really explore what it is we're supposed to learn and grow from as a result of being with those humans. So this is where the interpersonal branch comes in. So you have the quality of those relationships, the boundaries within those relationships, the kind of communication you have with them or lack thereof, how you differentiate from others, healthier independence, interdependence. So the mutual respect, equality, all of those are very human kinds of things. But it's the soul essence behind those dynamics that makes all the difference. And so, like I said, it could be that you had past life experiences with them. It could be that you're here to do some of your soul trauma healing as that you've had in past lives that basically you are having to recapitulate or experience in this lifetime in order to heal them. This is where some of the ancestral healing comes in. You've had these dynamics that have carried over and over and over through the generations that you've brought into this lifetime that are here to be healed. So the interpersonal branch is another important part of the human condition, but it's also a direct reflection of the soul condition. So intellectual, and I just realized there is a typo. I apologize for that. So the intellectual occupational branch, this is, if you think about it from the human perspective, you think of, okay, is there enough mental stimulation? Do I have boredom? Am I curious about life? Am I passionate about life? Do I have mental clarity? What are some of the mental challenges we need as humans? We like to be mentally challenged. Are we interested in acquiring knowledge? And what is that quest for information? The other thing I add on here is when it comes to stress, it's the sense of control in a work environment or a home environment that helps us feel well. So it's this whole idea of, okay, so these are the human aspects, but when we go to the soul aspects, okay, so we have life purpose, we have our life mission, we have that whole idea of seeking something that gives us purpose, something that gives us that ability to grow and evolve beyond. It's that mission in life. I have so many people that come to me asking, what is my life purpose? I want to figure out what this is. And, I'm really not the one to be the one to identify it, but I can help someone get there because of the fact that their soul is really the part of them that's supposed to identify what their soul purpose is. But we have to think about, okay, how many of us have had difficulty with jobs? How many of us have difficulty with things like concentration or things like motivation? There are deeper levels within us that affect or influence our ability to be in a vocation or a career that does or does not fit who we are as a soul. So we have to look at the complexities in order to feel like we are aligning with whoever we are supposed to be in that lifetime. If you are not someone who is currently working, you also have to think about, okay, so intellectually, how does that align with who I am? Some people were not made to work. Some people were made to raise children or to, inherit money so that they could go do other things. You have to think about it from the perspective of how does this align with me? Because a lot of what people, adults, struggle with is what am I supposed to be doing with my life? So this is another layer of the human condition that is directly impacted or influenced by the soul. The environment, we don't think about the fact that environment has something to do with soul health. However, we have to look at this from the perspective of everything around us is a reflection of who we are inside of us as well. So we have to think about clean, safe environments, healthy environments. That does include the climate, that includes clutter, that includes the ecological impact that we have, the aesthetics around us. So if you think about the environment, it's really everything that's outside of us, but we have to think of it in terms of how it reflects who we are inside as well. So I often say when I'm teaching this model that our external environment oftentimes mirrors or influences us from the inside. So it's this reflection of who we are on the outside for how we feel on the inside. So people who are cluttered on the inside usually are cluttered on the outside. People who really need aesthetics around them, needs their environment to be in a good place, has a need to be kind of aligned with themselves internally as well. From a soul perspective, I want to throw this out there that, this is one of those things where, again, we tend to think, oh, those aren't related at all. But for people who need a sacred environment, people who want nature around them, people who want to have church or religious or spiritual kinds of situations or icons around them, again, that is a reflection of their soul. For people who don't want that around them, well, then there's something about their soul that is saying, I don't need that around me. I've had wounds. I've had people come to me, and I call it church hurt or God trauma. There have been situations where people have been completely harmed by churches or religions. Or have been wounded by someone that has said something in a church, or, there's all these different kinds of wounds, and you have to heal those as well. But our soul is part of our spirit. Our spirit is part of God. God is part of the universe. And so it's this expansive kind of layer of who we are. And our environment is really both the internal environment and the external environment, as well as the emotional environment. And so that's the other part of what I try to encourage people to think about is that environment isn't just a physical situation, it's the essence or the energy of who we are. Now, I mentioned that the soul is the essence of who we are. If that energetic essence does not match our surroundings, whether it's the climate, whether it's the political situation, whether it's the place we live, if it does not match, you're not going to feel well inside. So it's really important for you to explore what that is and work toward getting your environment set up in a way that will align with you. So I hope that helps you understand that as well. The financial branch, boy, is this not a trigger for people. So, we do obviously, let me go back here. We obviously do need finances in order to live. So do we have ample resources? Do we spend within our limits? Do we have major debt? Are we saving for the future? Are we investing? Are we trying to keep ourselves looking ahead to what we might need in the future? What are our beliefs about money? What are our ideas about money? What were we taught when we were children? And what are our beliefs about wealth and abundance? Now, again, you can think of this as a human perspective and think that it's only human based. But when you think about the soul part of this, what if you had a past life that was poverty stricken? What if you had a past situation where you lost all of your money suddenly? What if you had a major health problem and your finances just went away? What if you were running a business and somehow the market crashed and you lost your business? So we can have soul trauma as a result of having basically human condition kinds of factors affect us. Now, I also have clients who have I have the opposite. So I have some clients who are very terrified to spend any money because they're afraid they're not going to have enough later, even though they've got plenty of money in the bank. And then I've got people who are afraid of money. They're afraid to have money. They're afraid to be wealthy because they've had experiences of people who are wealthy and how they've controlled them, or they've had experiences in the past lives of living in a very wealthy situation and then being harmed for it. So we can have wounding both because of the human condition and the soul condition that are related to this overall aspect of whole health. So again, everybody's different, which is why I'm trying to point all these different factors out. The spiritual branch. So this model is already spiritually based for the sake of basically you can't have something that says soul and not have spirituality as part of it. But from a spiritual branch perspective, now not everybody is spiritual, not everybody's religious. And I tell people you can have one, both, or neither, and it's just fine as long as it aligns with who you are as a soul. So the model itself is spiritually based, but it's usually people who are spiritually inclined. They have an intention about them with spiritual life. They seek a sense of inner peace. They believe in a higher power, not necessarily in the practice of religion. This also involves unconditional and non-judgmental mindset toward others in the world. And I realized I'm missing a piece here. I think my picture is covering it. Regular participating in some sort of centering activity. Now, that could be prayer, that could be meditation, that can be other kinds of ritual. And the fact is, the spiritual branch is really here to help you understand that it's the inner peace, it's whatever aligns you. I read somewhere that a long time ago that whatever is spiritual for a person is what brings them peace. So it could be sitting out in nature without a lick of understanding about spirituality. It's just that essence, that energy, it's that experience. And to me, as long as that soul is at peace, then they're probably experiencing some spiritual awareness anyway. So, like I said, there can be church hurt. There can be other things that have happened. I've had clients come to me who basically knew that they had some sort of past life traumas that were many lifetimes ago, but they were related to churches and religion and what had happened to them. And so I've had many times when I've had to help people heal from past lives. But again, we have this human condition that we naturally need to look at, but we also need to look deeper sometimes in order to experience that deeper kind of soul health. Sexual branch of health. Now, as far as I know, my wellness model, this soul health model, is the only model that has a separate branch of health that is related to sexuality. Most other wellness models tuck it under physical health, and to me, that's not enough. Being a therapist, I listen to sexual trauma stories every day of my life. And so very early on in becoming a therapist, in fact, this was in my master's program, I realized that most wellness models do a disservice to anybody who has had sexual trauma or anybody who's dealing with sexuality issues because they don't attend to the fact that it is such a core part of who we are. Now, I will also say this from a trauma perspective. I personally believe that sexual trauma hits us deeper than any other form of trauma because it hits at that core of who we are. It hits at the essence of who we are. So this is another aspect that I really try to emphasize, and I'm going to be doing more videos, and I'm going to really do a video about each one of these branches as Soul 101 continues. But I just wanted to give you a kind of a overarching idea of what this soul health is. So the sexual branch from a human perspective, what is a person's knowledge about sex? Do they know how to practice safe sex? Do they have emotional security, physical security, appropriate participation with self and others, no coercion? In other words, if you're feeling coerced to have sex, it's not healthy sex. If there's any sexual trauma there, like I said, that hits us at a not only human level, but a core level, the soul level. And what are your beliefs about sexuality and sex in general? Now, this again, religion can play a really big role in someone's trauma. But I want to help people understand we have the human aspects of sexuality to heal and understand, but then we have those soul aspects. And like I said, I really believe that sexual trauma hits us deeper at the core, hits us at that soul level than any other kind of trauma. And so people who have experienced sexual trauma, to me, I believe do need to experience some deeper healing, the soul healing practices, if they really want to get fully past whatever trauma they have, because this is the essence, the energetic essence of who a person is changes when they've had sexual trauma. So again, I hope this helps you understand the sexual branch. The recreational branch, now I add this, and I did this in a little bit more fun way, with the whole idea that especially adults do not engage in enough lighthearted laughter and not nearly enough lighthearted play. Because as we learn to adult, as we learn to become adults, we have to grow up. We have to have more responsibility. So sometimes we don't have time for playfulness. We don't have time and energy. At the end of the day, I don't know how many times even I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm too tired to go do this, and it's fun. And so it shouldn't have to be like that. So as you see some of these dropping in, again, we have to learn to instill some playfulness and some leisure into our everyday life, because the rates of burnout are just astronomical right now. The rates of stress are astronomical. And all of that, I think, is because we haven't learned to balance out heavy life things with the recreational part of our life. So, and I'm going to accelerate this a little bit more. So the whole idea from a human perspective of the recreational branch of life, ongoing activities for relaxation, decompression from stress, activities that invoke appropriate laughter. In other words, laughter that's not mean. I think that's a huge part of this. Physical and emotional releases from everyday life, being playful, non-competitive play, frequent laughter and fun, finding life balance, outlook on life. So our recreational branch of life from a human perspective has to do with those kinds of things. But from a soul perspective, and I can't emphasize this enough, the soul's most natural state is joy and contentment. And the human condition is not easy. It is relentless in creating stress. And so I try to emphasize the importance of really getting that play and that leisure and that relaxation and that recreation into our lives, because of the fact that it does soothe the soul. It helps us balance that. But how do we do that in the middle of a pandemic? How do we do that in the middle of a war? How do we do that in the middle of a natural event, such as a hurricane or such as a tornado? it's very difficult to keep that balance between recreational health and our over other forms of health because of the fact that we forget to play, we forget to take care of ourselves in that way. From a soul perspective, like I said, our soul's most natural state is joy and contentment. And so when we think about the fact that if we are deprived of that recreational health, if we are um, deprived of that leisure time, that relaxation and that leisure, then we're going to have difficulty feeling well. So it's really important for us to intentionally put some of those lighthearted things into our system. I can't tell you enough how many people have been soul injured by the concept that their parents drove into their brains. It's not okay to play. It's not okay to take care of yourself. It's not okay to set a boundary so that you can go relax or do whatever it is that is going to restore you. Women in particular have been told you have to take care of everybody first. So their souls are exhausted and deprived. Some religions have said it's not okay for you to take the time out, that you should always be serving. So I think you have to think about the messages that we've gotten and whether or not those messages are healthy for us. So again, the recreational branch of health has a human side and a soul side of it. And I think it's important to remember both. So this is really there to give you a kind of a glimpse of what we need to do to connect the dots. So how does one branch affect the other? How is it that we heal one so that it can positively affect the others? Because that is how it helps you heal the soul as well. It gets you into that deeper place of healing. So soul health does go beyond basic wellness. It awakens your consciousness and instills a different sense of inner peace, a deeper sense of inner peace as far as I'm concerned. It can act as your GPS system or that guidance system to help you know what needs to be balanced. And it also provides you with that radiant living blueprint that helps you just look at that image and go, oh yeah, that's what I need to do today to get you some get yourself some balance. So the sick or imbalanced tree, we cannot live happily, contentedly through life if we have a sick soul. If we have not aligned what it is that we need, we're not going to feel well. So this is where that soul health model comes in, and that's also the way of the soul and the ways that we can really come together and figure out how it is that the soul influences every aspect of who we are. So I like quotes like I said, learning how to operate as soul figures to take time. This is, again, it's a process. Soul healing is a process. Soul health is a process. Wellness is a process. And I think it's just important for us to understand that there's more to the picture of the human condition and the soul condition. Now, these are two additional aspects of what we're going to be talking about in the Soul 101 in the future. I wanted to throw these out there because basically, once I created the Soul Health model 18 years ago, 19 years ago, I've used it over and over again, and yet now there's a whole new level here, and it goes back to this root system, which is, to me, what I consider, again, the soul condition, which we're going to be talking more about in the future. However, you had to understand, I'm going to go back to this, you had to understand all of these different branches from a human level to start to glaze through and understand, get a glimpse of what it is that needs to happen in order for you to understand that deeper soul essence and how it influences every aspect of who you are. So if you're someone who feels a little bedraggled and you've done a lot of different types of healing and you've tried your best, well, there could be deeper levels of healing that you need to take into account so that you can get to a higher level of wellness. So I hope this is very helpful for you. I know that I'm going to try to stop sharing. There we go. It takes a little while to get that back. I hope you have a wonderful day. I think that this concept, the Soul 101, I'm going to take it as far as I can go with you so you really understand what the soul is all about. And I think that over time, I think it's going to sink in that your soul is your companion, your soul is your deepest sense of who you are. And it's really the part of you that needs attention if you want to experience whole person health. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. I would love to see and hear your comments, and I will be back soon with more information.